tonight. And we basically have two main goals for tonight. The first, if you saw it online, is to answer the question, why is sugar so addictive? And the second is to give you some practical tools, meaning some practical food, as well as practical lifestyle tips in order to help you kick your sugar habit. So in this workshop, what we're going to do is we're going to give you everything that we can in order to give you the most information. So for those of you who've worked through this already for some period of time, this might be like a refresher for you. For some of you where you feel like, man, sugar is a struggle every single day, or sugar is not a struggle Monday to Wednesday, but once Thursday hits and we're approaching the weekend, man, that is when things really get tough for me. For some of you, you're going to walk away feeling fully equipped, where for some of you, you might be like, okay, this is great information, but where do I begin? And so if that's you, where you're like, I don't even know where to begin, Jen and I are going to share with you what opportunities, what next steps we will have for you. So as in, what kind of coaching programs do we have? How can we get you set up so that you could take your next step towards success? Because we know that help is helpful, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. And that we need support from others.
Yeah.
And when we're learning new skills, whether it's basketball, you're learning how to play basketball, or you're learning how to knit, or, as a child learning how to walk, it's like you need someone to hold your hands.
Yeah, like literally, when you
to
have
make
a child,
just a step. Yeah.
It's like if she's a baby learning to walk. Remember when you walk your children like this, for anybody who has kids?
Yes. Or pulling yourself up on furniture, and it's like, okay, I need something that's stable to be able to be supported by. And even, when it comes to coaching, even if it's a sport or learning a new skill, I feel like those people have learned something that I don't yet know. So I'm hoping that if I just take a step with them, they'll be able to show me how they got to where they are, and we'll be able to journey together. And so that's what we want to be able to do, and that's also what we offer beyond workshops, is coaching, to be able to help you on your journey of just making great choices and continuing to be healthy and well. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, we would love to kind of start by introducing ourselves, just kind of sharing our passion, for health and fitness and for nutrition. So, like we said, my name is Christine, and I am both a health coach and a nutritionist. I was a nutritionist years ago, and I appreciated being a nutritionist because I loved nutrition. I loved, just how on top of the world and how much I felt like I could conquer the world when I followed and stuck to a nutrition plan. But as I worked with people, what I often found is that people would get started so good 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and about that 3 week, it was like a wall was hit, and then all of a sudden the power struggle became ridiculously real. And what really bothered me is at the time, outside of offering a meal plan and it's okay, Monday's a new day, you can do it, let's start all over again, I actually didn't feel that I could fully equip and lead people when it came to some of the behavioral transformation that takes place up here in our minds. And so I actually took a 3-year step back to understand health as a whole, from the connection of the emotional, the spiritual, as well as the physical and the mental side. And amazingly, through health coaching, took what could have been a year long, but you could just like super go it in 6 months. And so I did the super speed plan because I just like to get stuff done. And so this entire 6-month program actually talked about, okay, what is the science? What's actually happening up here? So that when people reach the point of power struggle, or when people reach the point of sabotage, what is that breakthrough point so that we can keep them moving forward versus starting over and over? So as a health coach, I love habit transformation, because I know, and I'm sure you know, that when we change our habits, we genuinely do change our life. So health coaching and nutrition, I just think it's like the ultimate. It's just amazing.
Yes.
How about you, Jen?
And goes together, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love food. Yeah, and I love cooking, and I love creating weird things. My husband says I'm about 85% cook when it comes to, like, you win like 85% of the time. The other 15%, it's like, what is that? Well, it's healthy. Eat it. No, but I do love that side, and I've always been interested in nutrition. Well, for at least the last decade plus, like over the last 15 years, I've been really interested in food and what fuels my body best, and how I can feel the best to be able to run the best I can as far as just different things and capacity in life. I wanted to be able to, run efficiently and learn how to do that. And I had the privilege of going to school for the year last year and studying nutrition and became a certified holistic nutritional consultant, which is a bit of a mouthful, but I went to school so that I would be certified to actually coach and be actually able to help others and figure out what makes them work. Because I believe that each person is unique and individual, and there are things that I think are very general that we all can learn from, and then there's also individual needs as far as, you know, our own makeup, our own emotional side, our own experiences, as well as, you know, who we are and what we like and what we don't like, and our family and our circumstance. And Christine and I partnered, and I got to join Christine in Empower Ways, because, you know, one of the big things for Empower Ways is our goal is to take people further, not just faster. Because I mean, I've experienced around me a lot of the yo-yo dieting and lots of what that looks like for people. And we want people to have a lifestyle they can stick to, something that's consistent, I can do this when, you know, like as I'm having kids, or as I'm raising my kids, or when I'm retired, or when I'm, you know, beyond just the here and now. We want your lifestyle to actually be balanced and enjoyable, but also just feeding yourself the best you can, body, soul, and spirit, to be able to go the distance. Totally. And so
so just a couple quick things in case you did not notice. The washrooms are just right across the hall, so if you need to get up and go, please do feel free. We will be taking a break about midway, so if you're like, oh, I can hang on for another few minutes, that you know, that is available. But the first portion of what we're going to cover is just specifically looking at why addiction. Like why the sugar habit? Why is sugar so darn addicting? So just like kind of by a show of hands, who would say, yeah, I might be addicted to sugar, or I am definitely addicted to sugar. So addiction's kind of a big word. You know, we have a definition of addiction that states the fact of condition of being addicted to a particular substance. So we think, you know, drug addicts will go so far as to potentially rob a bank or potentially rob a store in order to support the drug addict. And it's like, well, I wouldn't actually go and rob a store just for sugar. But have you actually gone and looted your children's or somebody else's Halloween candy, Easter candy, Christmas candy, Slurpees? Yes, right? So the term addiction might seem strong, but look at some of the synonyms. Are you dependent on sugar? Do you crave sugar? Is it a habit for you? Is it a habit to go and grab chocolate chips from the bag? Is it a habit to go to the store to grab a chocolate bar? Is it a habit to grab candy? Do you feel that you have a weakness for sugar? Is it possible that sugar feels like a compulsion, or maybe even a fixation for you? So if for anybody, if you felt like, oh, addiction is such a strong word, you're right, it is. But when you look at the synonyms, it's like, man, I think that's something that we all can relate to, whether it be now, or I would say for myself, hands down, at one point in my life, years ago. So why is it such a concern? You know, there's a new term that's starting to gain some traction in the nutrition world, and it's called MAD. It's an acronym for something. Do you know what it stands for?
Modern American Diet.
You got it, Christy. Yeah, bang on. And what do you suppose our modern American diet stands for?
Or consists of.
Or not stands for. Yes, because we've got MAD, but consists of is the better question. Yes. What do you suppose it consists of?
Meat, potatoes, and sugar.
Bread. Yeah. Bread for sure. And meat and potatoes, if it's in its natural form, maybe not quite as much as, what else? Bread, you're on the right track. Saturated fats. Sugar, you're on the right track. Yeah. So anything that's processed, anything that's loaded with trans fats, anything that's a frozen food that it's been previously deep fried that you can really quickly put in the oven. Anything that Hungry Man is a big one. Yes, they provide. The sad part is that these large meals are provided at, $3 to $4. So that because they're cheap, they're very attractive. But when they're loaded with trans fats as well as processed chemicals, it's incredible as to what happens inside. Listen to this. I've got a quote from a book that we've read, which the book is amazing. Jen and I both have it in our purse because it's just a little too good. It's an incredible read if anybody's really interested in the brain science behind sugar, trans fats, and so on. It's a book called Think and Eat Yourself Smart. It says the more processed and refined sugars we eat, the worse the effect gets. Evidence suggests that processed sugars act on your brain in similar, well-known substances like drugs and alcohol, which cause neurophysiological and structural confusion. Mad sugars are empty calories, as in when we eat these refined sugars, we consume excess sugars, especially the infamous, do you guys know HFCS? Do you know what that stands for? Maybe not. High fructose corn syrup. You've all heard of that, I'm sure. So high fructose corn syrup, it blocks the signal to our brain to tell us when we've had enough. So here's what's interesting. Let's say that you make a meal, a dinner, of some barbecued chicken breast with some grilled zucchini, as well as some roasted sweet potatoes. Have you ever had a dinner similar to that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Have you felt the satiation of when you've had enough when you eat a meal like that? Somewhat, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So amazingly, when we bring in real food, when we bring in whole nutrients, the thinking, the communication pathway within the brain is functioning from 1 to 2 to 3 to tell us, hey, I'm satisfied, I have had enough. The challenge is when we bring in sugars, which now block the thinking pathway, in that the striatum no longer is a part of the pathway. It literally is dismantled. So if it's dismantled, guess what happens? What happens is that it no longer exists, therefore you don't know when you've had enough. That signal within the brain actually is not working. So if you're somebody, and I've been here, has anybody else been there where you can have a king-size chocolate bar and wish you had another? Or maybe you had two and you ate them both, I don't know. Been there. Perhaps you're somebody who can eat a whole bag of chips. And it's like, how the heck did I just polish off that entire bag of chips? But when we're bringing these high salt, processed, trans fat, high sugar foods, amazingly the communication pathway gets dislodged, completely dislodged. So what's more is that food manufacturers now calculate what's called a bliss point. Shannon, I'm sure you've heard this through our total body transformation. Has anybody else heard of bliss point? No? Okay. So a bliss point, what it is specifically, is that food manufacturers, in order to drive their product, actually calculate the exact point when the food is so irresistibly tasty that we can't stop. So they literally are calculating the point to get us addicted, to draw us in to buy it, and to keep us coming back. So 1, the communication pathway shuts down, but 2, the food is failing us. I mean, so often we look at it as to say, I have failed, I don't have the willpower, I didn't follow through. We want us to look at, how can we look at this a little uniquely differently? And that maybe it's not so much that we fail, but the fact that the food industry is failing us, because they are setting us up to fail. Anytime we reach for these foods, these mad foods, we actually are falling into a point of failure because of the way the foods are designed.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, and it's not just willpower. Often it's like we feel defeated because it's like, I couldn't withstand what I wanted. And yet, is that you? Okay, I was like, I don't know if it's me. Anyway, but where it's like we feel discouraged, but yet when we realize that it's actually the food is failing us in the sense of it's not feeding our body, so therefore our brain is not saying you're done. It actually shuts off your brain. It's like the power outage. It's like the lights are out and there's something happening, but I don't know what. And when it's all dark and you're like, okay, nobody move or else you're gonna, cause a mess. And it's similar in our brain when we're eating foods that don't actually activate our brain to say, oh, you've had enough, or this is satisfying. It just shuts it off. And maybe for you, sugar isn't the thing. Maybe it's not like, pixie sticks and gummy bears like when you were young, but it is chips. You would say, I'm more of a salty person. Well, the truth is that chips actually also they're high in sugar. They become sugar, and they are like this plate here. This is 24 chips. So the World Health Organization recommends that an adult has 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day, and that's it. So that is the point at which your body starts to compromise. So if as far as sugar, your immune system actually shuts down for a time after you consume sugar, which is why, I know when my kids get sick, it's like, no, you can't have any sugar, because I know that their immune system is compromised and it won't be able to fight back until that sugar is actually kicked through and out of their body.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting that this plate of chips, which isn't very gigantic, like I don't think that's like a, like I'm thinking there's at least 4 of those coming if you're sitting down watching the game or whatever, right? And yet that is the extent of the added sugar you should have in a day. And I mean, when you think about drinks, even having 40 grams of sugar and like drinking those things, and even things that it's like, oh, this is fruit based, but it's really just a whole can of really spiky sugar stuff. And so having options that you can utilize is really important, and realizing even for our kids, if you have children or you're around children, you know, how they should be having 4 teaspoons of sugar a day. And that is basically a Tootsie Roll lollipop and a couple Lifesavers, and that's the extent of it. And then their body starts being compromised in regards to how it's able to fight and function. And just how we have to be cognizant of that with, I mean, there's small bodies and ours as well. We just don't think of it because our modern culture doesn't really encourage a really healthy diet. It doesn't show us what's best for us. And I don't know if you've heard of the hormone called insulin. So, and I'll just mention something, and this is that I'll draw a pretty diagram that you're gonna love, and you're gonna draw it in your notebook. I know you are. And you've probably seen it before as far as when it comes to our blood sugar levels. So when our blood sugar is what keeps us kind of regulated throughout the day. And if you wake up in the morning and your blood sugar is low, which it typically is because you haven't eaten in, 8 to 12 hours, 14 or whatever. And so you start your day low, and if it's like you're in a rush, you got to get to work, and so you grab a couple granola bars and a cup of coffee or to go, or you stop at Tim's and grab a bagel or a donut and on your way to work, and that's what you eat. What that does is it drives your blood sugar up, and then your body starts freaking out. It's like, woo, 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 the sugar is getting out of control. And so your pancreas excretes insulin, which is your hormone, that now brings it down. It's like, okay, but insulin is so wonderful at its job that it often dips below, and once it gets too low, that's when you feel that like, oh, is it 10 o'clock? Whoa. You feel sleepy, and you start to feel fatigue. You start sometimes getting foggy, and you feel like, okay, I need something, and you start going on the hunt. And of course, I mean, I even saw there's cinnamon rolls sitting out here, and it's like, someone brought in cinnamon rolls for the office, and so it's like, if I just grab one of those, I'll feel better. And it does. It makes you feel better. And it brings up your blood sugar. And you're just like, woo, I'm feeling good, guys. Let's have this meeting. And then it's just like, again, the same cycle goes over and over. And when we live on this roller coaster, what happens is our body actually gets used to the roller coaster. It starts to actually feed more insulin just because that's what it's expecting, is these highs and lows. And we can become insulin resistant, which can lead to type 2 diabetes, which is a major issue in our culture today. And why we believe that it's so important to, even if you know all this, I feel like it's so important to be reminded that it's like, okay, oh man, when I eat, a full bag of, and that's like this size of bag of chips right there.
Yeah.
These are like the tiny ones, the tiniest you can possibly purchase. Even things like, I was surprised, like beef jerky, like this is 5 grams of sugar, and these were like 40 grams of sugar. And like starting to realize just what we very much go to on a regular basis throughout our day to give us those pick-me-ups, to get me back to this place where it's like I can think again, and I can just feel back up to that level where I can, even be alert. Yeah. And it works, but it's a short-term fix instead of that long-term. Again, not just getting you there faster. We want to take you further into the habits that are actually going to benefit you for the long term.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Can I add something to it that's not a part of our notes?
Course.
Okay, awesome. The other thing in particular with sugar, why it becomes so addictive, is that it enhances our taste buds to a way that they are like in need of that flavor again and again and again. So that when we eat natural whole foods, they taste what?
Bland.
Awful.
Boring.
Awful. We
So
did an
true.
experiment, this was like probably 4 years ago, and it was a really fun experiment, like simple, but yet profound, in that during nutrition night, what we did is I had a big bowl of strawberries that were super ripe and delicious looking, and I passed them around and we all had a strawberry, and we're like, that is absolutely amazing, because it was. And then what we did is we passed around a caramel bar. Now keep in mind, this is a weight loss group, and I'm handing out a caramel bar, and I'm like, for any of you who just don't want to eat this, I totally get it. But for anybody who wants to partake in the experiment, or just, cheat a little, have a piece. And so sure enough, most people, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2, did not have a piece of the caramel bar. We passed out the strawberries again. What do you think the taste was with the strawberries? It was very tart and bitter, yeah. And yet they were ripe, red, full, delicious strawberries. You know, the ones you bite into and you're like, this is like heaven. I could eat these all day. They suddenly were absolutely disgusting. So on top of the blood sugar roller coaster, why are they so addicted? When we enhance our need for in our taste buds to meet only the high sugar content, it's like nothing else can satisfy. But there is good news with it. The good news is that your taste buds can reset. Did you know that? Yeah. And do you know how long it takes? No.
Like a week? I don't know, 2 weeks?
I actually don't know. I've heard 30 days on a couple different things, but I don't know if that's been proven. What have you heard?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
You don't know? I have heard.
28, yeah.
You've heard
28?
28 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so
A month.
basically the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah, Tasha, we'd be
recover.
basically right on. So there's 2 different references that I saw that was 30 days, but nothing that said, it was just like a Healthline type article. It wasn't like something where you're like,
PubMed.
yes, I know this
Right.
is the right information.
Yeah.
So about 28 to 30 days. So for any of you who would say, hey, sugar is a concern for me and I just don't want anything but, if you are willing to experiment, not push it for the next 18 years, but just experiment for 30 days, as in record how certain natural foods, as in fruits and vegetables, sweet potatoes, perhaps even almond milk, or if you're one who drinks whole milk, how it tastes, and then record like the level of sweetness, record how it tastes, and then turn around 30 days later and retest it for yourself to say, okay, how has this taste actually changed now that I have been able to eliminate sugar? It's a pretty cool experiment, because there will be a significant difference between the two.
And I find that with things like dark chocolate.
Yes.
Obviously,
A perfect
like
example.
you just, and even like peanut butter. I feel like it's like, wow, that's so satisfying. Even though you give that to someone who is mowing down these every night, it's like, what are you eating? That's disgusting. So we can change. We really can rework those habits. And it's valuable.
It is so true.
Yeah.
So true. Okay.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, let's look at cravings, because cravings aren't easy. We face them. So just out of curiosity, who would say I crave sugar on a regular basis, as in I crave it daily? Who would say daily? Daily for a lot of you? Okay. Who's kind of like our more so evening sugar craver? Evening, a lot of you. Anybody who's afternoon, like 3-4 p.m. time frame? 1, 2 of you, okay. And who's more so weekends? Like when the weekend comes or Friday comes, who notices that your need for cravings increases more on the weekend? Does that happen for any of you? No, sort of. A couple of head nods I see. Okay. So cravings are pretty incredible, because they do come. And what's amazing is that they tend to hit us at certain times of the week or certain times of the day. Cravings, they're not easy, because when Jen talked about willpower, we would like to think that it's all about willpower. We've been told again and again that we just need to have enough willpower and we can do it.
Right.
But we know that's not true. One of the reasons that our cravings can be so challenging is that our lifestyle also feeds into the cravings. So what do I mean specifically? Our cravings, yes, they can be about the foods that we eat. As in, when we come into the blood sugar roller coaster, you better believe if you've just finished off a package that has 40 grams of sugar, it won't be longer than an hour, 2 hours until you want more sugar.
Yeah.
The other part of it, though, is that the way we live creates stress factors. It creates emotional factors. It creates isolation factors, as in, I haven't seen anybody all week, and I know Friday night I could go out, I could see some friends, but man, it's been a long week, I'm just gonna stay home. The isolation of staying home can create cravings within us. These cravings, they do carry a hidden message. What I love to say in coaching is that often we look at cravings as the problem. And what if we could look at our cravings to be more like a friend? As in, when we can look at the cravings from the side of, cravings, what are you actually trying to communicate to me? That's an underlying message of what I'm actually craving for. So consider this for a moment. What if your sugar cravings are simply emotions that are needing to be felt?
Yes.
As in, when you feel the need to emotionally eat, eating can stuff that emotion, but what if what that need is to feed the emotion in a way that it just needs to be felt and experienced? Maybe it just needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
Perhaps your sugar cravings, they deal with guilt. If you're somebody who, deals with the inner critical person, your inner criticism, maybe it's, guilt, maybe it's condemnation, maybe it's, judgment upon yourself or others. I mean, I know we don't like to talk about, hi Bonnie, I know we don't love to talk about these things, but at some point we've all been there or we are there. And so what if your sugar cravings are a way of eating your guilt per se? What if sugar cravings are more so about unrealized potential or unexpressed creativity? As in,
So good.
within me, I have
I
this
love that.
desire for something that's so much more. A desire to really, go after the career that I've been longing for, to go after this dream that I've been believing for, to have this gift within me. As in, I have a gift for music or art, or a gift to write, or a gift to speak, or a gift to be a friend who just comes alongside people and listens. I don't know what the gift is that's been put in you. But within every single one of us, there is this incredible gift. And when we have this untapped, unrealized potential, there can be this hunger inside that's hungering for more of life. But if we miss that hunger, what do we think it is? We think we're just hungering for food. And we feed a hunger that doesn't even exist. So there is a message in the madness. Cravings can feel maddening. When they overcome you, when you start and you just can't stop, it can be maddening inside. But I'm telling you, if we are willing to consider what that craving, what the message within that madness is, you might see, okay, there's actually some emotions from an unspoken conversation. There's some emotions from, a past relationship that I haven't been able to share or express or even journal, for that matter, if you don't have access to that individual. That needs to be felt. There can be creativity within you. I mean, I'm telling you, if I can just share a super quick story, there was a coaching client that I had worked with, and we asked, a series of coaching questions to see what could this hunger be about. And she's like, Chris, I used to dance and I used to paint. And she was like, those were the times that I was at my happiest. And I'm not even kidding. When she started the next week, she just went to one dancing night on a Friday night, and the weekends were her tough time. She didn't have a tough weekend at all because she had her creativity expressed through dance, and it was powerful. It was significant. So
can I just interject?
Please,
Sometimes
yeah,
as
you go.
adults, I feel like